The Green Bay Packers had their chances, but they beat themselves yet again, this time against the Minnesota Vikings in Jordan Love's return. We are live on YouTube for a reaction.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. I know it's tough on a day like today to start your day with us, but we appreciate you doing it. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. What time is it? Gametime. The Green Bay Packers were absolutely getting worked. It's 28-7 at halftime. The Packers come out in the fourth quarter. They score 22 unanswered points. They let the Vikings get that critical field goal to make this a two-possession game late, and the Packers get the late touchdown. They don't have an opportunity. They don't have the time to get the late field goal that would have won them this game. They had the opportunity to get those field goals early in the game. Braden Arvison missed a 37-yarder. And then, down 21-0, Matt LaFleur gave Braden Arvison the opportunity, a 49-yard field goal. You'd expect an NFL kicker to make those between 75 and 80% of the time. And he just biffs that one too. You're down 3 scores. You're kicking the field goal to go down 3 scores. The reason you're kicking it is to say, hey, Braden Arvison, we believe in you. We are going to give you an opportunity to show, hey, we want you to do this. We are here for you. And he, once again, misses the kick. Now, there is a cascade effect of all these different things. It's not as simple as just saying the Packers lost by 2 in a game where they left 6 points on the board. It's not quite that simple. But over the course of this game, the Packers put up 465 yards of offense. Yes, a decent amount of that was in the second half when the Vikings have a big lead, but the Packers consistently closed down that lead, and the Vikings started to change the way that they were playing. It didn't matter. The Packers made them pay in the second half over and over and over. Jordan Love started a little rusty in this game. We'll talk about Jordan Love a little bit later. Not great opportunities with some of the throws. The third down miss to Dontavian Wicks, one of them. Fourth down throw, one of them. But the Packers had plenty of chances in this game. Even the fourth down throw to Dontavian Wicks in the end zone, Wicks comes back to the ball and just biffs the catch. It hits him in the chest. It hits him in the square in the chest. This is another loss where I'm coming on the microphone and telling you that the Packers put up a bunch of yards and a bunch of points on a defense. By the way, this is a legitimately very good defense. Well, the Eagles, another question. This was the best defense in the league by DVOA. And in the second half, they got whatever they wanted. Even in the first half, they moved the ball with effectiveness. But it's drops, it's penalties. And the drops were killers. Dontavian Wicks, I know the final line is going to say he had a really nice game. And he did make some big plays in this game, no doubt about it. 2 touchdowns, including the late one, but 5 catches on 13 targets. And I would say at least 3, if you wanted to go to 5 drops, I think you could get there without stretching too much. It was just brutal. It was brutal. Romeo Doubs had a chance to make a play in a contested situation. He couldn't. He had 3 drops. And then the touchdown where he catches the ball, it's a double catch. He ends up outside the end zone when he was in the end zone when he first started to have possession of it. I call that 3.5 plays where you expect him to make those plays. Jaden Reed on a little swing screen, drop. They made every one of those plays from Malik Willis. Every one of those plays the last 2 weeks from Malik Willis. And it was like they just didn't play with the requisite amount of focus because Jordan Love was around. And I don't want to hear any of the Matt LaFleur was outcoached stuff that's showing up in the chat. Because in the second half, this team stayed together. They could have packed it in. We would have seen this team, Aaron Rodgers era teams, they would have packed it in. They would have packed it in. And Jordan Love came to the stadium today wearing the Brett Favre jersey. He was either going to win this game on one leg or he was going to throw interceptions trying. And that's what he did. The Packers deserve an immense amount of credit. Not just offensively, but defensively. In the second half, you give up 3 points to this Vikings offense that was getting whatever it wanted and has been getting whatever it wanted all year long. The Packers defense started to show up a little bit more in the second half. I continue to believe, and nothing that ultimately happened. In the first half, I started to think about it differently. But at the end, I'm going, the team that beat the Packers on Sunday was the Packers. That's who beat the Packers. It's bad penalties in key situations. Now, Eric Stokes, he's not going to hold up all day long against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Corey Ballantyne, like that's just not fair to those guys. So part of this, yeah, it's a different game if Jair Alexander can play. It's a different game if just Carrington Ballantyne. Forget Jair Alexander. If it's Carrington Ballantyne and Eric Stokes, they probably can play this a little bit different because they don't have to have Keyshawn Nixon lining up on the boundary one-on-one with Justin Jefferson. They can just play him in the slot. It's a very different situation. The Packers deserve credit for coming back. It's still a loss. It's still a loss. They're still 2-2 instead of 3-1 or 4-0 when they had every opportunity to beat the Philadelphia Eagles and their own mistakes got in the way. They had every opportunity to beat the Minnesota Vikings and their own mistakes got in the way. They drop an interception on the first possession that immediately turns into a touchdown. At the end of the first half, they have the ball, not one, but 2 Packers have an opportunity to make a play on the ball. We're recording this as they're doing the post game. So we'll hear, I think, from Jordan Love, if that interception was for Luke Musgrave or Romeo Doubs. I suspect it was for Romeo Doubs, just given the amount of zip he put on it. And Romeo Doubs, even after it gets redirected, has to make that play. And it goes right into the hands of a Minnesota Viking. This was a game that everything went wrong in the first half. Everything went wrong. Every little break, every little bounce, even the Tucker Kraft fumble at the end, that ball just sat out of bounds or right in bounds. You'd expect it to go out of bounds. It didn't. Those are the kinds of plays that the Packers allowed themselves to dictate the outcome of this game because they had opportunities and they could not take full advantage. That's on them. That's on them. They have to get this kicker situation sorted out. No question about it. Yes, they would have played much better with Jair Alexander, but they didn't have Jair Alexander. They needed their pass rush to show up. Don't worry, we are going to get to the pass rush. This Vikings team, I said it coming in, they have been the best team in the NFC this year. So don't act like I'm not giving them credit in this game. They did a lot of things right in the first half. No doubt about it. But the Packers also had every opportunity in their hands to win this game. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. And they're going to have to. Aaron Rodgers has talked about this. You have to learn how to win every year together again. And I thought the Malik Willis stuff, I thought that was the galvanizing moment. That was when they could learn, hey, this is how this works. You have to do it. And then you get caught in a game like this where everything goes wrong. You fight all the way back, and they're just one play here, one play there away from winning this game. A game that they played, what, a C minus game for most of it, much like the Eagles game. This was the Saints game from last year, week 3, except the Saints were not as good then as the Vikings are now, and that was the difference. If the Vikings don't go get that 3 points at the end of the game, the Packers win. It was that 3 points. The Packers come right down and they score a touchdown. Now, again, it's a 2-score game. We don't know how Brian Flores handles the pressure differently, how he handles that defense differently. But you can't just call this all garbage time, because it wasn't. It wasn't. The Packers made this a game that matters, but it only matters insofar as it proves that it was the Packers beating the Packers. And that stuff has to stop. Now, Jordan Love is back. Jordan Love is back. And in the first half, it seemed like maybe he shouldn't be. But then the second half happened. We'll talk about it next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats because they make it easy for you to find the best deals on tickets with a new feature called Gametime Picks. They filter out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You don't want to deal with that. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And all-in pricing, you can turn that all-in pricing feature on, so there's no surprise fees at checkout, plus panoramic views from your seat lets you know what you're getting before you buy. Take the guesswork out of tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Jordan Love made his return in this game, and it was uneven, I would say, the performance. Early on, it was kind of what you'd expect, where he's not putting the requisite amount of juice on the throws, can't quite get. I thought Trent Green did an excellent job of talking about some of the rotational issues that he was having. Hey, he can't get fully into his front side. And so he's trying to compensate for it with tilt and arm, and the ball's dying on him because he's not able to really drive it the way that he wants. In the second half, you could see he's got his whole body trying to torque these throws so that even though he can't really anchor and twist off that front leg, he's still able to generate it. I mean, we saw it on that 2-hole shot to Dontavian Wicks right before he threw the interception. Now, the first interception is him trying to put the ball in a place where you probably don't want to put the ball. And I think if he had more velocity on his throws, he could have fit that in there. But that's a super tight window throw in a crowd, and you put your receiver at risk. He hurts his ankle. Hopefully not a terrible injury for Christian Watson. We'll see. By the way, the people talking about Christian Watson on the internet, chill out, guys. Please. This is not Christian Watson's fault. That is a hospital ball that his quarterback threw him. And he's lucky it wasn't worse, honestly. Like, whatever the injury is, he was able to walk away, walk to the tent. I know he ended up getting a ride to the locker room, but it could have been worse. It could have been much worse. Could have been head, could have been neck, could have been, something like that. The second one is not his fault at all. Luke Musgrave, if you're going to jump, you better be sure it's to you. Now you're 6'6" and can jump and long arms and all those things. And so he thinks that ball's to him. I'm pretty sure that one was to Dobbs on the inbreaker. I think that was that little concept that they won with the wrap in, where the tight end, you get a little sit route inside and the dig in behind. I think that's what it was. I'd have to go back and watch. But either way, Dobbs is open. Love is putting it on him. If that ball doesn't get tipped, it's right to him. And it still ends up being pretty right to him. Hits him on the back hip. He drops it. If it just hits the ground, you're good. But it gets hit up into the air and it turns into an interception. The third one is Brian Flores being Brian Flores. That is a zero pressure. You got all out pressure. Harrison Smith off the edge. Jordan Love knows he has to get the ball out. And Brian Flores knows that what the Packers like to do, going back to Aaron Rodgers against zero looks, is throw the deep ball. A lot of teams try and throw the deep ball against zero. And they had it so that to Love's field side. So he's looking at that zero pressure, knows Harrison Smith is unblocked, knows if he comes, that ball has to be out. And so he throws a bail go ball to Dontavian Wicks. Byron Murphy is sitting on it. They baited Love into that throw. That's Brian Flores being Brian Flores. You're good. You're good. Like that, you just have to tip your hat on some of that stuff, right? The rest of the game, I mean, he made a couple throws. That Jaden Reed throw, which one? Pick one. At the end, he had one where he tried to lead Dontavian Wicks away from a defender. Wicks dropped it. But he made some unbelievable throws on the run, escaping pressure and getting the ball out. I thought he was, especially in the second half, really good. Again, the interception at the end, you're just getting Brian Flores, and that's going to happen to you, especially when you're losing. It makes it easy for them to just tee it up. Now, you look at the rest of the game, though. I mean, 25 of 54 for 389, throws the 4 touchdowns. The throw to Reed on the first touchdown is absolutely ridiculous. An incredible play by Jordan Love and Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed made a couple of beautiful catches in this game. If anything, I'd like to see them get Jaden Reed more involved. He had 7 for 139 and a touchdown, and I'm sort of like, yeah, but he only had 8 targets. Like Tucker Kraft had more. Dontavian Wicks had more. That can't be. Get Jaden Reed the ball. Get him opportunities. And look, the Kraft play is another one. At the end, you have a chance there. You have a chance there. At the end of the game, to make this a real deal game, especially like that late, because the Vikings eat up 2 minutes. It's 4:31 left when they get the ball back at the end, and it's 31-22. So the Packers down 9. They have a chance. Tucker Kraft picks up some yardage. The ball gets punched out. That's, again, not Jordan Love's fault. And now you have 2 minutes that you lose, and the Packers get the ball back with 2:21. They do go down and score a touchdown quick. They go and score a touchdown quick. But because you wasted that whole last drive, now you don't have time to get a stop and get the ball back in any real way. You had to use your timeouts on that drive, all those things. That ends up being a huge play. When Jordan Love throws the touchdown to make it 28-22, all the Packers have to do is get one stop. All they have to do is get one stop to give the Packers the ball with a chance to go tie or take. Well, no, I guess they could have tied if you try and go for it or miss the extra point, something like that. The defense can't get that critical stop. They play much better in the second half, but they can't get that critical stop. Like, it is a absurd irony that you play so well in the second half. You get the huge interception, the huge sack fumble, some huge stops, great 4th down stop at the end. But ultimately, it costs you because the one stop you needed to get, you can't get. It's the 3 points that changes the game. Now, again, if you had that extra 6 points, you're not worrying about it. I don't think it is as simple as if the Packers make both those kicks, they win. But it is the case that this is a 2-point game where you miss 2 field goals. It's like we can't miss that part of it. And I loved Jordan Love showing up in the Brett Favre jersey. Say whatever you want about Brett Favre, the person. I understand people's misgivings on that. I have them myself. But Brett Favre, the football player, the guy that made a lot of people my age fall in love with the game, who would either win you the game or he'd rather die trying. That was the guy that we saw on Sunday. Blood and guts performance from Jordan Love without his full faculties. I don't know how you can leave the game anything but heartened by what you saw from Jordan Love. Clearly hurt. Clearly not 100%. Clearly not 100%. And he went out, and from even early on, the Packers were able to move the ball. You get out there, now it's 3rd and 8, and you have a false start on that first drive. You miss the opportunity to Dontavian Wicks, a drop. And then you biff the field goal. Now it's 7-0. They go down and get 14-0. And then Jordan Love has the interception. That was the tough interception too, like the real bad one. I can't blame the other one on him. And look, the Brian Flores one, that's Brian Flores. So did I think he played perfectly? No, I don't. But is that about as much as you could ask from a guy playing what is clearly less than 100% in a situation like this? I think it is. Now, you could have asked for a lot more from this pass rush. So what happened there exactly? That's next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Packers were 2.5-point favorites in this one. Of course, they did not cover. We'll see what happens next week against the LA Rams. I have a feeling the Packers will still be favored in that one, honestly. Hey, NFL fans, you can start with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I would guess the Packers were like plus 7.5, maybe more, plus 10 in the third quarter. They definitely covered that. Live betting. I live bet the Giants on Thursday, cashed it. It was like, one drive. The Giants got to stop. It was plus 5.5. I took it and they lost by 5. So beautiful thing. You get started on FanDuel with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. That's guaranteed. You don't even have to win. Just place it. That's FanDuel.com to get started. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL now with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. All right, this pass rush. It took until the second half before the Packers really started to do anything against Sam Darnold. And the only 2 guys to actually get sacks, Quay Walker on a pressure, Keyshawn Nixon on a pressure, on a designed blitz look. Only one other play resulted in a QB hit, and that was a TJ Slayton QB hit. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say Rashawn Gary no-showed in this game. He no-showed in the first half. In the second half, he was much better. They actually moved him to the opposite side to work against Christian Darrisaw. That worked. He started to get some push, started to collapse the pocket a little bit there, started to make some plays in the run game there. I don't know where Kenny Clark was. Where was Kenny Clark? Did he play? Are we sure? We're talking about a Pro Bowl caliber player, one of the best interior pass rushers in the league. Career high in sacks last year, and he has just not played football for the Green Bay Packers this year so far. Now, I'm excited for more opportunities from Carl Brooks. He almost had a sack fumble late, like a fingernail away from a sack fumble. Sam Darnold pulled the ball away at just the last minute. That was that kind of day for the Packers. You're so close and couldn't quite get there. It took them in the second half being much more aggressive, calling pressures. And then they started to blitz more, started to play more man-to-man coverage. And that was the drive in the second half where the Vikings moved the ball down the field. They were able to get those critical 3 points. And that ends up being the difference in the game, is those 3 points. I didn't understand. Let's go back to the very first drive. It's 3rd and 14. The Packers just rush 4. I'm trying to remember if that was a simulated pressure or not. I think it was. But it's just a 4-man rush. Now, there were times when Sam Darnold made some terrific throws with pressure in his face, with a free runner in his face. But that's what you had to do every time. Make Sam Darnold on 3rd and long play quarterback against you. They got him. They got him enough in this game. He threw the back-breaking interception in the red zone when they had the chance to really ice this game, and Xavier McKinney makes what should not have counted a big play. But you can't just live on turnovers, especially when your team is turning the ball over too. I mean, the Packers, you have 3 interceptions, you lose a fumble, you force 3 turnovers, and you lose the turnover battle. That's tough. But we expected this pass rush, the interior, to be impactful. They weren't. And I understand Jeff Hafley saying we trust our guys, but at a certain point, I don't understand. That first 3rd and long, I want to set the tone. I want to bring a designer pressure and have Sam Darnold be thinking about it. And if you want to throw a simulated pressure next drive, great. But that first one, I want to set the tone. And actually, let me back up one more. I mentioned this on Twitter. The Packers won the toss. They deferred. Something they did really often with Aaron Rodgers, and then again last year early in the year. And then when they changed that mindset, in the second half, they decided to start taking the ball against Detroit. It changed their season. It was a mindset difference. I'm going to tie this back to the pass rush, I promise. It was a mindset shift. And I didn't like that, again, Jordan Love, go take the ball. Let's go see what you got. First 3rd down. I thought defensively, this was supposed to be a mindset shift for this football team. And they come out, and with backup corners, they bring no pressure and get no pressure. That felt like the game in a lot of ways. Not that, 1 3rd down was going to be the difference, but I'm saying it's emblematic of the game. There are a couple 3rd and longs. They had that 3rd and long at the end. Now, ultimately, they get the stop. But if Justin Jefferson is a fraction more out of bounds, they don't have to get that play. By the way, it's 4 minutes left versus 2 minutes left. It's a huge difference in time. If they get a 3rd and 12 stop, it changes your whole game. Jason Hirschhorn at The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, wrote about this today. The Packers on 3rd down, they've been so good this year, top 5 in EPA per play, all that stuff. And it's just like none of it worked today. And so it's hard to say a team that has been really good on 3rd down this year should change the way that they play. But I just didn't like the passive approach there on 3rd down. And there were too many 3rd downs where that was the case, where they just were playing a little bit too passive. And I'm sure if you're Jeff Hafley, you're going, look, I got Corey Ballantyne out there. I got Keyshawn Nixon trying to play boundary corner. Now, I also thought, once again, I need to see Edgerrin Cooper more. Once again, I need to see Evan Williams more if these linebackers are not going to play well. I don't know what else there is to see. Now, Quay Walker came out, he makes a play in the end, but like Eric Wilson, if you're going to have a linebacker in the flat in base personnel, it can't be Eric Wilson against Justin Jefferson. Like against a different team, it's different. Against the Colts, that's fine. Against the Titans, that's fine. Not against Justin Jefferson. There have been some decisions that I have just not understood so far with Jeff Hafley, and that is one of them. I still think that this defense can get better and be better, but they're not playing. Their best guys are not playing well enough. Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, like I made the joke during the game, The season started a month ago. Someone needs to tell those guys because they have not played the way that they are capable of playing. And this was one of the top, by pressure rate, this was one of the top 4-man pressure groups in the NFL last year. They have absolutely not been that this year so far. And even at a place where this is a vulnerable team inside, Garrett Bradbury, Ed Ingram, two of the worst pass blocking players at their positions in the NFL, the Packers got no push inside. Not Carl Brooks, not Kenny Clark, not Devontae Wyatt, not Lucas Van Ness inside, not Rashawn Gary on stunts and twists. None. No one. I'd actually like to see Lucas Van Ness inside a little bit more. Played 3-tech his sophomore year at Iowa. Let's see him. Like if Devontae Wyatt's not going to be out there, give him a chance. Give him a chance. All right, plenty to talk about. Packers, Rams coming up this week. I will be in LA. We'll be in LA. As they say, I will be there. I will be there. So much more to come here. We're live on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, after every game, we will be live on YouTube. So follow me on the Twitter machine. We always let you know when that stuff is happening. Go subscribe over on YouTube so that you can know right away. And you have an opportunity to go subscribe, to go follow us on the social medias, to do all those fun things so you can stay locked on Packers.